So we're very happy to have you with us today. And the best way to get lots more people to come into any space online is to make sure we start speaking. And then, of course, we will have to repeat everything and people will all come back. So let's get started. We'd like to welcome you in the name of Guapalita today. This is most of the leadership team, and we're gathered here to give you some insights into what it is that we do. Hello, Elizabeth, nice to see you. We're giving you some insights today into what we're doing, and we're looking at the way feminine leadership is going to be developing throughout the years, and we are giving an active part in that, by helping you today in this series of talks, but also we're here to make sure that you find out about what we're planning for the next few years, and we'd like to invite you to be part of our program. So today there are 7 of us here online. We have 8 nationalities and we're in 6 different locations. So this is a very international group, and we're happy for all of you who are coming in to speak with us today that you could join us in this wonderful community online. We're going to have 4 individual presentations. After each presentation, we will take time for questions. If you have a question, please write it in the chat. We will ask the question and then give anybody of our team the chance to give you an answer. And when the questions are finished for that section, we'll move on to the next section. So I'd like to first of all introduce you to our founder, Ideli Rios, who will give us the introductory session and tell you exactly what we're going to be looking at today. Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Rhonda, for this introduction and for being our moderator today. Let me just open my presentation. Maybe you can just confirm me. You can see it with your thumb. Okay, good. Thanks. Excellent. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Wherever you are watching us, thanks for joining us. My name is Ideli Rios. I'm the founder of Guapalita. Let me just introduce myself briefly. I'm Mexican, mother of 2 young men, 18 and 14 years old, married. My family is a patchwork multicultural family, which is a very big challenge, but happy to face these challenges. I'm living in Germany. I'm living in Germany for about 4 years. And I would like just to share about a bit about my professional experience. Well, I have worked as pedagogue, coach, mentor, and trainer in both environments, institutions, education, and corporate world. And in my experience as pedagogue and in the area of education, training, and assessment center and human development, I can say that competencies play a very, very important role. Not only today, they have playing this role for the history of the humankind, but today more than ever, it's quite important to pay attention about what are these new competencies that are emerging in today's world, in today's society, and most important after COVID-19. So I am a passionate about continuous learning, and I also love social innovation. And I would like to tell you that in 2017, I started to connect with women around the world in order to share about topics in empowerment. And we started connecting and sharing through a blog, writing articles, organizing webinars. And since last year, the autumn of last year, we started with a very nice and beautiful program named Friday Talks, in which 8 ladies from 8 nationalities, including myself, started to meet each other once a week on Fridays in this case, and to talk about these topics that might be important for feminine leadership. Feminine leadership indeed emerged as the main topic of our discussion, and the competencies in this feminine leadership is what today I would like to share. So let's just start talking about competencies. What is competencies? And I would like just to share here two definitions based on the Management Study Guide. Competencies is a set of individual performance behaviors which are observable and which are also measurable and critical to successful individual and company performance. Competencies are also individual characteristics of a person which result in an effective and superior performance in a job. And I want to highlight these last words, superior performance, because it's not only to have this good willingness, is to have a performance above average. And you know, when someone asks me, ideally, what is a competent person? Based on my experience and based on the places where I have worked as assessor in HR development, a competent person must have three elements. And these are knowledge, skills, and attitude. This combination makes a person a competent person. And not only that, the person must achieve, as I said, a level above average. So we're talking about a superior performance level, okay? Competencies, why competencies, and what kind of competencies? I would like to share this chart, okay, for you to have a very fast view about how the competencies actually are developed based on the environment, okay? So this is the chart that shows the evolution of our industrial revolution. And if you can see, between the first industrial revolution and the second one, we're talking about 100 years. But what happened when this third revolution, the third industrial revolution started, when the electronics and the use of IT started to have more importance? This is in the 70s. Till today, the fourth industrial revolution, I mean, this pace, this acceleration is extremely fast. And after COVID-19, it's even increasing its pace, its speed. This is what I want. We focus, and we want, and I want we distinguish. We can distinguish. So competencies today tell us that people have to be adaptable, resilient somehow. They have to have innovation in their portfolio, because everything is changing, and we have to adapt, and we have to innovate, and we have to create. And perhaps what was excellent and was successful 3 years ago, today is obsolete. So we have to continuously learn. And we have to collaborate. Indeed, partnership is one of the goals from the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, right? So if you heard that maybe some of these competencies are started to appear in articles, in webinars, in the mouth of experts, is true. Yes, this is the new modality. Okay, I would like to share a study that took place last year, actually in June, July, after COVID started. And this study took place in Mexico, in two important cities, including Mexico City. 100 companies were surveyed. Pay attention to this. 78% of the directors said that cognitive competencies are very important to ensure in employees, because through these, they can ensure employees can respond to innovation needs. Now, on the other side, 83% of HR managers said the social and emotional skills are super important to ensure effective collaboration. More than 1,000 collaborators said that those skills to operate in a digital environment are vital to develop. So, once again, competencies are important. And it's not only in the professional life. It starts indeed in our personal background, in our personal life. And with this, I just would like to start talking about the feminine leadership. And some people said that feminine leadership is one of the 21st century leadership models that now is emerging out of the old hierarchical, top-down control leadership model that has been prevailing along history. And feminine leadership focuses on a well-rounded, healthier approach to business and community. The Harvard Business Review, most particularly an article that was written by Bill George, said that in the 21st century, the most successful leaders will focus on sustaining superior performance. So once again, what I just said, the combination of these three variables is skills, knowledge, and attitude. So on a sustaining superior performance by aligning people around mission and values, then maybe you can ask, okay, do I have to align the mission and the values of the company I work with myself? I mean, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what is my mission in life? What are my core values? We should start thinking and questioning ourselves. What is that mission of life that I have? What are those core values that really, really talk about who I am? And from that particular self-assessment, then I can start connecting and identifying my way and the way I can connect with others. So feminine leadership, it's one of these concepts that today we are hearing more often. But feminine leaders are not only women. Feminine leaders show up in the world with integrity, creativity, and a willingness to collaborate and communicate. And are we talking only about women? No. We're talking about any gender that fits into this model. Yes. So, but even more importantly, feminine leaders have emotional intelligence. They use these skills in emotional expression, in communication and implementation to raise and diffuse any situation. This is basically what feminine leadership is trying to say to the world and what is needed right now. And today, emotional intelligence, even though emotional intelligence is not a new topic, is today twice as important than cognitive abilities. And based on this emotional intelligence model from Daniel Goleman, indeed, Daniel Goleman said that 4 pillars of the emotional intelligence model are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. So, saying this, what is what we did in Guapalita? In Guapalita, I just would like to share this design thinking process where we found empathy in this environment of women from different cultures. We define our mission, a mission that says that we are going to empower equality through this inclusive feminine leadership. And we finally finish with an idea. And this idea is the definition, the identification and definition of 10 competencies that for us are key. And based on other experience, we think they might be a good proposal for the 2030 Feminine Leader Profile. The competencies are here. Actually, we are going to hear through the rest of the speakers about 3 other important competencies: meaningful communication, extensive self-assessment, and sincere inclusivity. This is, I'm not going to talk specifically about the meaning of these competencies, but I just wanted to let you know that this is our product right now, okay? This product was made by the collaboration in teams and through the use of digitalization, where we documented the whole information and where our next step is to design the Feminine Leadership Program. And for that, I am here today to invite you to collaborate. You're a coach, you are a mentor, a teacher, a project manager, a social leader. And if you want to collaborate by designing the modules that can help other people to develop feminine leadership, you are more welcome. And this is going to be a great opportunity to do something as partnership. Till now, this is my presentation, and I am open for questions.
Thank you so much, Adeli. If any of you have questions, thank you for joining us, all of those who came after we got started. It's very nice to have you here with us today. And we mentioned that if you have questions, we'd like you to just type something into the chat. All of us can see those questions. The rest of us will come back on screen for a moment. You'll get to see us, and we will be able to address any questions that you may have about how we're working on these competencies, what we're planning moving forward. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask at this point? If not, there will also be time at the end. Maybe you need more time to think about your questions. That's also fine. All right. Yes, we have a question from Elizabeth. She says she's a mentor, age 65, to college students and value the opportunity to be a role model for the competencies you've outlined. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful, Elizabeth. Yeah. Those of us who's been around a little longer, you and I are in the same league. We are really, I think, fortunate to be in the stage of our lives we are now. But the nice thing about our group is that we're in very different stages of life. We're in very different locations. We do very different things. And that gives us a uniqueness and a wholeness that other things just run by 1 or 2 people do not have. And we really look forward to having you join us, Elizabeth, and all the rest of you ladies as well, and give us a chance to include whatever it is that you bring that you're very good at, because we can all learn from that, not only those of us here in the group at the moment, but all of us who are going to be joining us in the future and working within our program. So thank you very much for sharing, Elizabeth. Does anyone else have any questions or anything they'd like to share? If so, feel free to put it in the chat. We'll let you keep thinking. We'll have time at the end also for more questions. So as Adeli mentioned, we're now moving to the next presentation, which is being done by 2 ladies, 2 speakers, Karen and Janet. And they are going to be talking about the feminine leadership as coming from the idea of self-assessment and how you personally know and what your personal journey is. And they'll be sharing some things with you. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us, and that you'll be curious to find out more. Stay around. We'll be giving you the chance to find out more and have time at the end for you to ask any questions you have. So now I'm going to turn it over to Karen and Janet. Janet, you're still muted. Thank you very much.
Welcome, herzlich willkommen.
Bienvenidos a todos.
I'm Karin Goldgruber. I'm originally from Austria and I live now in Canada. I work with highly sensitive female business owners highly sensitive people are about 20% of the population. This is an innate trait that people are born with, and many people have no idea about it, that they are a highly sensitive person. So I'm very passionate about it. I am an HSP myself, and I work with those female business owners to help them to reduce stress and overwhelm that comes from this innate trait sometimes, so they can keep calm, take the next step, and build a bolder business.
Thank you, Karen. My name is Janet Rios Vasquez. As a professional in supply chain management and expert in procurement, my motive is to ensure that the companies and the staff work as a team, a power team, basically, looking for better ways to work together, satisfactory, be happy in their work, and finding the end results as a company, getting performance, but also that the staff contributes and feels happy about it, being always together to look for better results and have a long-term performance in a very equitable, very happy environment, and that means more results in the long term.
So have you ever asked yourself, if you would follow yourself, if you were a leader, are you able to lead yourself? And I think those are very important questions that we have to answer for ourselves on a consistent basis. Self-assessment is important for anyone in business, in life, or any person. And when I first moved to Canada, when I was 20, I started to take steps of self-assessment without being aware of it. When I came here, I didn't expect that the culture would be so different in Canada from Austria. I also realized that my English wasn't as good as I thought it was. I had British English, and suddenly there was Canadian English. So this was quite a challenge, and I was already in business in Austria, and I wanted to expand that business to Canada. So the challenge that I faced was that I didn't know anybody except for one friend and my partner who worked in a different city. So I had to start building, making business contacts. So, and I was also very shy. I had grown up in a small town in Austria where I knew everybody. So it was easy to start a business there, having all the contacts. So my choice was to start making contacts in Canada was a very simple decision, was to go out every day and to say hello to 3 people consistently. Sounds easier than it was. Some days I really didn't want to go out, and but I continued every day to go out. I was observing my results, the progress that I made, and I got better and better. I felt more comfortable. I would even start to say, talk with people about the weather, get into conversations over time, ask for phone numbers. So this was a very clear choice, and through self-assessment, I monitored my progress. And as I gained more confidence, I refined my procedures. I noticed what worked and what didn't work. But what I noticed at that time, I was hoping to have a community that would support me. I was doing all this basically by myself. So now being a part of Guapalita, I really appreciate being a part of a community that shares their expertise freely. But what I have, the skills that I learned then and the consistency and persistence are very valuable tools that I'm using in my business now. So sometimes we may not see the things that we're learning and think that they're important, but what I've learned then is really helpful now. My boys actually, as they were growing up, they always said, "Mom, you know, everybody talks to you, you know, are you a spy?" Because people just opened up, but this was because of consistent work that I did and self-assessment. So Janet, what are your steps for personal self-assessment?
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Just like you, Right now, I'm going through evaluation of past experiences based particularly on struggles that I may have. And I can think about one in particular. There was a time where I had to look, and I was struggling because there was a lot of challenges that were coming from work. And then at the same time, as a mom and a wife, well, you have to look also how to keep balance on everything, right? And me, as a professional and always trying to improve and always trying to continue to scale the ladder, it wasn't enough for me just to be at the same state, but trying to keep balance came with lots of challenges. So one of the major things was to learn how to prioritize, how to start changing small actions in my everyday life. Actually learn to say no, learn to put my needs and prioritize them before I can actually comply with the rest of the things, because it's something that we all struggle having the balance. It helped me a lot to identify exactly what was my mission, going back to the struggle and identifying where are the things that I want the most, focus on those and start eliminating from the picture the other ones. That had a lot to do, and the success itself had a lot to do with finding alliance in both sides, both in the house and in my work. How did I do that? Basically, open communication. Open communication is very important, allows home, my partner, my kids to understand why I'm going through certain activities through the day, why I'm implementing this type of rituals, so to speak, on my everyday life, you know, certain actions that would trigger me in motivation and in action. And also at work, help a lot to work directly with my team workers, with my colleagues, explain what I was doing for them to be sensitive also about that. But not only that, that they will also take a little bit of those comments and implement them in their life. And it worked pretty well with my boss as well, because he understood where I was standing. He understood that there were some priorities and it had nothing to do with relinquishing my responsibility. It had to do with being committed to what I was doing at work itself. So finding that alliance at work and at home worked perfectly. Yes, it wasn't from one day to another. It took a couple of months, but it is part of the process, you know, it is part of the process. Every day we have different challenges. The idea is to fine tune, find your own rhythm. You know, it's kind of like when you're dancing, they change the tune, so you move accordingly. And it's something that at the end, once you find that rhythm, you'll be able to click in action. That's the whole thing, you know, you don't stay stagnated, you feel good about it. And that self-assessment was the first part of the journey that will help you to be in community, open communication, and continuing to action. That's it.
And like you said, having this vision is so important, because when we have a clear vision of where we want to go, then our goals are much clearer, very defined. We are able to say no. And we can also, I notice then I focus more, I get more things done as I have all those things defined very clearly.
Absolutely. Basically, your vision turns into your addiction, so to speak, because you are focusing on it and you're capable of removing any other kind of stuff that may take you away from that objective that you have. And as you mentioned, community is prime. Doing those alliances, which actually, I have to make a parenthesis because I'm so proud of it. Karen and I didn't know each other, right? We met in Guapalita, you're in Canada, I'm in Mexico, and we were working together with this competencies program. And we have not only learned from each other, but learned from our environment, help each other in certain circumstances. So community is actually one of the key factors for our success, both professionally and personally. And that's definitively one of the benefits that we can get from a community group.
Definitely. And for me, like being in Guapalita and working with the leadership program and women from all around the world, different backgrounds, different education, it was it really helped me with my self-assessment. And I noticed that I often take my accomplishments for granted. I underestimate my skills and competencies, and I overestimate other people's skills. So that was really helpful for me to notice that I'm much better and I'm acknowledging those things. And this gave me more confidence. And I've just being in the team for the last year, so many things have changed and I have grown immensely. And also to have the outside feedback and looking at other leaders and seeing what they do has been extremely helpful for me.
Absolutely. And that particular thing is you become the leader of your own. And even though you have other leaders around you, you start, let's say, identifying things that will work for you, and you become your own leader. You know, you became your own and leader in identifying with it yourself. You don't have to copy anybody. You don't have to be like anybody. You just, like you said, see your strengths, work on developing opportunities to be in certain things stronger, you know, any kind of things that you see as a challenge, but you at the end become your own leader and you do not lose your identity. Do the opposite. Through self-assessment, you find out who you really are and then start working on those areas, those competencies that will actually catapult you to the next level, whether personal or professional. And that's wonderful.
And you know, it's through this personal assessment, like the inner assessment, but also being open to other business women, to getting feedback. I noticed over time that I was different. And then through a friend, I found out about being a highly sensitive person. And that completely changed my life. And now I'm so passionate about that because I was in my 40s when I learned about that. I'm passionate about telling other people about this innate trait because I'm convinced as sensitive people, we have very strong strengths that are important for the next, well, the future really, and for business. So we have had so many benefits through Guapalita, and we're wondering if people in the audience, if they would think after hearing from the three of us, if you think that you would benefit from being in a community of international leaders.
Absolutely. Those are for questions if they have right now, but more now than ever because of the changes that have been in the world, you know, and what we're facing today, whether we're being compliant to work from home or we are having to change our way of working or commuting on our everyday life. So absolutely, if anybody has a business, wants to change and develop a certain competency, you want to simply get prepared for what is coming to you because of the new challenges of the generations today, absolutely, this is by all means a good platform where you're going to have community, good feedback, and will be embracing everything that you have to offer to the group as well. So we're open for questions if you want to share, or even comments if you have.
Thank you so much, Janet and Karen. We already have a nice comment from Tammy Briggs in the chat. Very interested in the highly sensitive people topic. I founded an organization called the United Nations of Harpists, and we talked about HSP on Tuesday evening at our global meeting. So Karen, look, you have somebody who's in your camp. Isn't that wonderful? The rest of you ladies, if you'd like to turn on your video again, in case people have other questions that maybe you'd like to also relate to or say anything about. Does anyone else in the audience have a comment or a question they'd like to put in the chat? Anything about self-assessment, about figuring out who you are? Elizabeth says, please tell us more about the meetings format, duration of a group. I'll make a note of that, Elizabeth, and I will we will talk about that at the end, then after everyone's had a chance to speak. But thank you very much. And yes, we will provide at the end, we'll also provide emails for a future connection. That's very nice of you to ask, Tammy. This is wonderful. So we'll look at how we're acting together and how you can get in connection with us when we finish all 4 presentations. All right, so that's great. Thank you very much for your support. Is there really no age limit to becoming a female leader is the question, ladies. Is there any age limit?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all. As soon as you have the awareness of what you want to do, or at least the drive of what you want to do, that's the first step. And the thing is to do self-assessment, what you want, and find community, just like we were talking. You know, people that can support you, people that can be with you every step of the way. And in the end, yes, it's going to require a little bit of work as usual, anything, but the rewards are tremendous. You will feel it every day too.
And I would like to mention, I have two sons, they're 20 and 21, and I would say that they are feminine leaders. Sometimes as the older generation, we don't pay enough attention to the younger people, the things that they have to say. I've been learning so much from my sons. It's incredible. Like, I really look up to them, and it's exciting to bridge from the difference in how we grew up and
Right.
how they're seeing the world. And they have a vision of the world that is incredible and so inspiring, that makes me go to work every day.
Totally.
Ladies, let me share something I saw recently on television. If I had the chance, I would drive to Paris and meet this lady in person. They gave a short background about her life, and then she was sitting at a piano and playing classical music and was producing CDs to sell of her piano concerts. She is 106 years old, ladies.
Wow.
There is no limit to this. Her
Absolutely.
son, who's in his 80s, is her manager. She is 106 and still producing music and selling it commercially. So ladies, I don't care how old you are, doesn't matter. None of us are 106 yet, I bet. So we still have a good chance. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Teresa, congratulations on your age, whatever it is. That's right. And if she can do it, you can definitely do it.
Mhm.
Absolutely wonderful. Okay. So we've heard about the program in general. Now we've heard about how you actually look at yourself and figure out what's going on with you. And now we're going to move into the next logical step, which is what do you do when you have to communicate with other people, which in our community, as you've heard already, is something very, very important. And so now we are going to have two more colleagues who are giving us some help on this. Those are Vera and Niraj, and I'm going to turn over to them. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Rhonda. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session, Meaningful Communication, Mastering You to Create Meaning for Everyone. I'm Neeraj Tyagi. I'm an executive coach, and I work with business leaders and entrepreneurs, help them achieve their professional goals. With me, I have Vera. I'll allow her to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vera Cunha from Portugal. I am a project manager, and also I am an innovator in training and education, and also a public speaking designer. And I want to first share with you this quote that I absolutely love. Every act of communication is a miracle of translation. And we are going to speak about communication. That's right. And I know everyone has heard a lot about communication. We think that we know everything about communication, but today we are going to speak about meaningful communication. That means that we have to communicate clearly with a goal orientation mindset and awareness of our assertive body language. But let's see what really means to have a meaningful communication. That means that we are going to express ideas in a clear, concise, and organized way, focused on goals, using mainly powerful questions, and also active listening. It's so difficult to use active listening and assertive body language, but also is someone who is using meaningful communication is someone who will verify that the message has been understood by continuously observation is so important. It's so important when it comes to meaningful communication, showing interest and fostering connection. If we are using and trying to create meaningful communication, we need to foster a connection. And also we have to assure the significance of the message by conveying it with applicable emphasis, intonation, and cultural awareness. And of course, sensitivity. We need to bring sensitivity to our meaningful communications. And how we are going to do that? We have to try. We have to try as much as we can to create meaning and to create more meaningful communications. And how we are going to do that? Using our own power. Yes, all of us have power to create more meaningful communication. And yes, now I'm going to pass again to Neeraj. She's going to share some important tools with you.
Thank you, Veera, for helping us understand what meaningful communication is all about. This session is going to equip you with practical tools and help you master communication and create meaning for all involved. Use your power. With that, I would like to introduce you with the magic of number 3. Human process information using patterns. This is how we learn. 3 is the smallest number of elements that are necessary to create a pattern. Being brief and having a pattern makes our content more memorable. So here is tool number 1, rule of 3. Concepts or ideas presented in 3 are inherently more interesting, more enjoyable, and more memorable. Why it works? Because of 3 reasons. Establish logic and simplicity. Empower yourself and your audience to stay on track. Number 2, rule of 3 provides balance and order. Clear expectations are being set up. How much people need to listen and how you're progressing would make your communication more impactful. And number 3, keep them connected. The audience stay engaged as long as they know where they are, like a chapter in a book. Here are some of the examples wherein globally communicators embrace rule of 3. All of us in our childhood are being made aware of what it means to score being first, second, or third. Olympic medals are given to champions in silver, gold, and bronze category. Project updates globally are reported in a manner of red, amber, and green. Sales leads are categorized as hot, warm, and cold. And all of us would have had an opportunity at our age to go through menu that talks about delicious appetizers, main course, and not to skip dessert. Here is tool number 2, pyramid model of communication. This is a picture of a pyramid being divided into 3 parts. The top part is the bottom line. Come to the point straight away. The second part is the theme and key points. Support your point with the themes and where are you coming from. The bottom of the pyramid is having eye for detail, knowing your data, have evidences, and all the picture when required being shared with communicators. Why this model works? Pyramid model is being used across all the industry. Reason being, it allows people to organize and structure their thinking and communication in a manner that can be easily absorbed by your audience. Ordering from the top down primarily symbolize, speak first, what do you stand for? Thinking from the bottom up is necessary to know why you think the way you think. And at last, writing an introduction is an enjoyable task to make the pyramid model works in your favor. This picture gives you an example of a headline, which is basically based on 3 anchor points. And each of the anchor is also being supported and concluded from the double-click level down data and analysis being done. I hope this picture allows you to visualize that pyramid model is something all of us are already aware of. People communicate news in this model. Political leaders connect with their people using this model. And business leaders make elevator pitches also using this model. Tool number 3 is metaphors. What is metaphor? A word or a thing that means one thing and used to describe something else to emphasize their similar qualities. Why metaphor works? Metaphors are the short and sweet way of communicating. It helps capture attention. It creates connections with other people who are raised differently with different cultures, values, experiences, and environment. And most important, metaphor helps simplify complex ideas. These are some of the metaphors example, which people have been leveraging from a long time, and we continue to do so. In business, we call it time is money. All the world is a stage is a famous quote and a line by William Shakespeare. Vincent van Gogh said, concise is a man campus. Mothers are proudly known to saying, you are the apple of my eye to their child, letting them know how much they love them. And a woman would love to know if her hair, long hair, was a flowing golden river. With this, I will invite Veera to continue the session and help you create meaningful conversation and connection with your stakeholders.
Thank you so much, Neeraj, for sharing with us these 3 practical tools. They are very important, and I am going to continue sharing some practical tools to create more meaningful communications. Easy ones, most of us maybe are using them already, but we need to do that in a more conscious way. The first one is to communicate face-to-face whenever possible. Maybe nowadays we are using too much non-face-to-face communication, but you know, if you are communicating face-to-face, you are going to create for sure more meaningful communications because it will be easier to read what people are saying. One more practical tip is definitely to combine verbal and non-verbal communication. Please, always, if you can, show positive non-verbal feedback, such as nodding with your head when other person is talking. And this will make the other person feel much more empowered by sharing their thoughts and their feelings with you. Listen effectively. It's so difficult nowadays to listen effectively to someone. So how can you do that? Paraphrase to show that you are listening and to verify accuracy of what you have heard. Also, pretend that there is going to be a quiz at the end of the conversation. And if you do that, you are going to pay more attention. Make a mental checklist of all the things that are important in that conversation. Also ask questions that will show interest, but also confirms that you understood what has been said. And of course, questions will help you to gather more information, but just a small note here, make questions just about and only about what is being said, not about anything else. Offer positive feedback. Providing feedback, we all know that is a great way to improve interpersonal communication. And if you do that, you are going to create a very, very important relation with the other person. And also offering positive feedback, it also helps people view you in a more engaging way, and that will encourage people to reach you and to create a relationship with you. Speak with purpose and vocal conviction. That means that you need to push your voice out. And also another practical tip, end sentences at the same or lower tone than they begin. And again, when it comes to pace, pause. Pause to add emphasis to what you are saying. Own your space. Show that you own the room by taking up more physical space. You need to do that. Use purposeful gestures. And if you are seated at a table, move your weight forward and keep your arms resting on the table. That will make you own your space. Be unapologetic. Women have a tendency to over-apologize about everything, but it will weaken your overall message and your presence and your role. Say what you really mean and try it out in a low-risk situation if you are facing some problems. Open conversations for discovery. Open conversations are a great tool for building connection. And also, another practical tip will be, Niraj, are you there? Be direct, be declarative and direct. Get straight to the point. Then be brief, be bright, and be gone. And we are almost going on, but we are talking to you and to us. We all have these tools and we all can use them to create more meaningful communications. And just to end, my final message is this one. Who I am today is not who I am tomorrow. So please keep trying to create more meaningful communications and to master yourself. Niraj.
Thank you so much, Veera, for sharing a host of tools with us, which are practical in nature. And with practice, we can apply the learnings at workplace as well as in our personal grooming. So my message here is try again to be better one more time in commanding your communication, a meaningful communication that will engage stakeholders all at once. And if you fail, then try again and again and again. And the time will come, you'll be able to do it in an effortless manner. So we wish you all the best from Team Guapalita Empowering Equality. Thank you so much for listening. And I invite Rhonda to continue the session.
Thank you so much, Niraj and Veera, and the rest of us are all coming back now to see if we have any comments or any questions in the chat about what you've gained knowledge on communication or any other, maybe you have other tips you'd like to share as well. All of us are experts at communication, just in different ways. So if you have any tips you'd like to share, please feel free to do that in the chat. Or if you have a question about any of those tips you just heard, please let us know. Tammy said, Veera, you made me realize when you end a sentence with a higher voice, it sounds salesy. Do you agree with this?
No, not really. I guess it depends not only on the tone of your voice, but on everything that you are saying. So if you are selling something, you are going to be salesy. But if you are speaking from your heart and if you are sharing a different message, I don't think that we will pass that message, but it's just my point of view.
Any of the other ladies have something they'd like to add to that?
Yes, I would like to share that if my objective is to make a sales presentation and have a relationship with my customer or a stakeholder, I would like to create a presence that supports the objective, because the intention behind is to serve the other party or the other person. So with that, I believe it's very situational. However, as long as you have a goal which you would like to achieve, that requires a certain presence and your voice matched to what you stand for, what you're offering, it's a good idea to use your voice.
Thank you, Niraj. Tammy, if you come from the US, you may be referring to this wonderful / terrible thing that has come up in the past few years, where people end all of their sentences going up. So the intonation goes up at the end. I personally go crazy. I haven't lived in America permanently since 1983, but when I hear people talking and every sentence goes up at the end, and I was taught many years ago that when you end a sentence up at the end, you have a question. And I keep thinking, how many questions can you ask one after the other when you're speaking about anything? Yes, okay, then I did find the right answer for you. Very good. yeah, it's a very strange thing that's happened in the American society in the past few years. As I said, I don't live there anymore, but I interact every day with American people. And I hear this very often on podcasts and things. And I personally go crazy. If that drives you crazy too, welcome to the club. And yes, we don't want to be salesy and not like the used car salesman kind of salesy. So a wonderful thing to look at self-assessment from Karen and Janet, and then to move that into your own communication as well. Wonderful idea that you've shared with us. Thank you so much. Any other ideas that we'd like to discuss about communication at this time? As I said, we'll have some time at the end as well.
I guess taking a little bit from what you mentioned, Rhonda, it had a lot to do with the generation. And I have two teens, three teens, well, one is already older, but definitively they're catching on what they hear daily on podcasts, you know, whatever is online. And they're becoming salesy, if you would, if I could use that, just naturally because of that influence. And so it's part of the training process also between work or within school and here at home, trying to make them sensitive that we have to develop a way of communicating to all different audiences and not only talking like if you are with another person on your own generation, and be capable of transmitting, just like Veronica said, the message that you want to say and not be interpreted in a different way. So that's wonderful. It's a challenge, but definitively it's part of the new challenges with the working in this very transgenerational circumstance that we have today.
Thank you, Jen. Well, I think I'm going to go to our final speaker today. That's Astra. And we've talked about the program in general. We've talked about individual journeys and how those look. We've talked about interacting with other people directly and what happens there. And Astra is going to now talk to us about getting the bigger picture at the end, if you will, looking at the roles of diversity and inclusion in the way we interact with others. So Astra, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Rhonda. Well, I feel a bit scared to present now after all those great tips that we got from Vera and Mirage about communication, but I will still try to do my best. Let me just share my screen. Right, so as Rhonda said, I will be talking about the power of accommodating diversity into decision making. My name is Astera Brylka. I'm a psychologist and also a diversity and inclusion expert. I'm an author of many peer-reviewed academic publications about diversity, inclusion, and intergroup relations in diverse societies. So as I said, let's start with what inclusion is and what diversity is. We all hear the theme diversity or the word diversity everywhere around us these days. It's a very hype word. Everyone talks about diversity, how diversity makes us stronger, how we should be united in diversity, or how we should embrace and respect our differences. If we think about organizations, whether it is the public sector or corporate, in the Western world these days there is a plethora of indicators that allow to measure how diverse the working environment in the organization is. And these indicators usually do not differ that much between the organizations within one country, as they are often based or directly derived from the national legislation. By using these indicators, organizations of different kind and different size can show how successful they are in following the anti-discriminatory law of the country in which they operate. For instance, in the UK, the current anti-discriminatory policy is reflected in the Equality Act from 2010. When you are a new starter in any organization in the UK, the diversity and inclusion training is one of the first things that you have to complete. along with the other mandatory trainings, for instance, anti-bribery training or health and safety training. So if you think about diversity, it appears that diversity and inclusion is as important to contemporary organizations as any other topic that is related to either employees' well-being or following the local or international law, and that there shouldn't be any problems related to diversity and inclusion after all. But that is in fact quite often far from being true. Yes, on the paper or in the yearly reports, everything looks nice. Diversity is embraced by the organization and everyone that works there feels included. And above all, every member of the diversity committed organization is treated equally and has equal opportunities for career progression. However, is that really so? Does diversity go hand in hand with inclusion? Or are these two, as many people think, the synonyms that can be used interchangeably and mean pretty much the same? No, they aren't. And this is why it is so important to understand what inclusion or inclusivity is and how it differs from diversity in the first place. Diversity emphasizes the importance of acknowledging, or even more, positively valuing individuals that carry different characteristics. And that is about acknowledging or positively valuing them in the process of achieving and promoting equality in diverse organizations. This is the essence of diversity, acknowledging that the differences between employees in the organizations are important and have the potential to facilitate the organizational growth. Inclusion, on the other hand, is the practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized because they carry some minority characteristics, for example, race or disability. So inclusion as such is less about the true acknowledgement of the added value that diversity creates for an organization, but it is more about legally guaranteeing equal opportunities to every member of this organization. So while diversity is quite easy to accomplish for organizations that nowadays operate in multicultural societies, societies that are almost everywhere now in the world, they are culturally diverse, committing to and implementing sincere inclusivity is much more difficult to achieve than just creating diversity among the workforce. Diversity is the easy part. Inclusivity or inclusion requires the effort and changing the mindset from the fixed post-colonial one to the truly open mindset that sees diversity as a real asset to the organization rather than just a point to tick in the yearly checklist that organizations submit to the diversity and inclusion supervising bodies. To be truly inclusive means that the leader and everyone else in the organization, for that matter, truly acknowledges that the differences that come with diversity are enriching, instead of being a threat to the way how the things have been done so far. Change is always difficult to embrace, but being inclusive requires being open to change and also being open to implement that change with no prejudice. Without accommodating what diversity brings with itself, whether there are cultural, social, or gender differences, and actively using these differences for the benefit of the whole organization, we cannot talk about true inclusivity. If the differences that come with diversity are not utilized in the process of decision-making and accomplishing tasks, we we cannot talk that diversity adds any value to the organization. Real inclusivity allows for a quicker group learning, finding out-of-the-box solutions, and also creating innovation and staying ahead of the competitors. That's what different research shows. Real inclusivity creates the feeling of belonging for everyone in the organization. The feeling of not only being a part of the team, but being a valued member of the team, someone whose experience, skills, and voice matters as much as everyone else's. When inclusivity is real, everyday practice in the organization encompasses inclusivity, it strongly supports equality as well. And by doing so, it also promotes meritocracy, as everyone in the organization has equal chances to be valued and promoted due to their merit and their actual achievements, regardless of having or not minority characteristics. When we are talking what inclusivity is, it is also important to say what inclusivity is not. Nowadays, when diversity in societies and the workforce is a fact, and also the rights of different minority groups are protected by law, inclusivity sounds like a prerequisite, not really as an option. Nevertheless, in many organizations, inclusion is not really sincere, but superficial and often quite selective. And it's also directed to maintain a facade for the organization of being progressive and open to diversity. Every one of us, with no exception, has their own unconscious biases. Those biases are the underlying attitudes and stereotypes that we unconsciously attribute to another person based on, for instance, their ethnic group or nationality. And those biases, those stereotypes and attitudes that we have, they affect our conduct with this person. We all have these biases, but those biases can be realized and subsequently changed. We do not have the choice to have these biases or not, as we require them very early on by being brought up in a certain culture and in specific social circumstances. But when we are mature, when we are grown-ups, it is our decision, or even earlier, it is our decision what to do with those biases. A good leader that is able to introspect and self-assess their own behavior is aware of their own limitations, and that kind of an inclusive leader does not allow these limitations to manifest automatically in their daily practices. Inclusive leaders reframe their judgments and they eradicate the biases that prevent them from utilizing diversity as a means for organizational development and growth. In many organizations, ethnic divisions that go back to the colonial times are still vivid. And so are the nationality-based divisions in Europe that are pretty much linked to the stereotypes of progressive Western Europeans and backwards Eastern Europeans. These stereotypes were quite widely and enthusiastically promoted in the West as a part of the anti-communist propaganda of the post-Second World War era. I'm Polish, and as a Polish woman who is educated both in Poland and Western Europe and who has gained work experience predominantly in Western European countries, I myself experience how stereotypes about Eastern Europeans and attitudes that many Western European people have towards Eastern Europeans affect career and professional growth. I myself have often been subjected to covert discriminatory practices because of my nationality. And it was while I was working for organizations that emphasize that they are promoting diversity and they are an inclusive employer. However, regardless of my credentials, skills, and achievements, I had it really difficult to secure a position that would correspond to these all. I often lost to people that were 5 or even more years behind in their professional achievement, but they were not from Western Europe like me. And this experience is not only mine, it is shared by many other Eastern Europeans in the UK, and also by other people with minority characteristics, for example, race. Maintaining this kind of ethnic or national hierarchies is very common for many organizations that officially promote diversity. These hierarchies operate behind the scenes on a daily basis. And while on the surface, diversity and inclusion is supported by the organization, it is actually pseudo inclusivity, and it is selective, and sometimes it's reserved for some minority groups and minority characteristics, but not for the others. The climate of ethnic and national superiority and ethnic hierarchies that are tolerated and quietly encouraged sometimes create non-inclusive working environments, and they fuel discrimination towards those that are at the bottom of such hierarchies. These minority employers, often taken on board as tokens to show that the diversity and inclusion policies in the organization indeed work and are followed, those employees face career stalling, lack of transparency in promotion, the skidding, and ultimately bullying when they start voicing their concerns. Being an inclusive leader is not easy. It requires many qualities that not everyone has. However, a good thing is many of those qualities can be learned if only we have curiosity and genuine appreciation of diversity that is also combined with the willingness to be truly inclusive. Inclusive leaders are self-aware of their shortcomings, but they are also able to go beyond these biases and recognize the potential that diversity has for the organization if acknowledged and embraced properly. Such leaders not only give their support to inclusivity as a notion, but they also act as role models, and they show to others how diversity and inclusion can be used for everyone's benefit and the achievement of organizational goals. These leaders do that by creating safe and inclusive working environment in which every team member feels equally respected, has freedom to contribute, knows that their opinion matters as much as the opinion of every other team member, and has a sense of belonging to the team on equal terms with the other members. We all are different, but we are all equal. Be an inclusive leader. Do you have any questions?
Thank you so much, Astela. That was absolutely wonderful. Gave us the really high-level picture of what we need to be taking care of when we're working in organizations and making sure that everyone has a fair chance. That's a very important thing. Does anyone have any ideas or questions about what Astela has just shared about either diversity or inclusion? If you're facing challenges with this, and we would understand if you wouldn't like to write anything specifically in the chat that everybody could see, please feel free to reach out to us individually. Ideally, it's going to help us and put in the website again and the chance for you to contact us there if this is something you wouldn't like to talk about in public, but would need some help on a private basis. We understand how important that is as well. And Sarah is asking, can you share more about the benefits of greater diversity to help encourage change? Astela.
Well, if we are thinking about the diverse working environment where teams are pretty international, I, for example, worked quite often with people who are from different countries, then you can imagine that everyone is in a way different because we've been socialized in different cultures. We have different ways of doing things. That's not only about thinking about things in our personal life, but also it's about what we do professionally. And for example, if you think about encouraging change in an organization, that kind of environment where people come from different backgrounds can be very supportive, but everyone has to have respect to those differences. And as I said, there has to be a leader who is inclusive and who recognizes that those differences in the way people do things or in the way people look at things, you know, in the perspectives that they have when they think of a problem or a task to solve, that leader needs to be inclusive and genuinely understand that diversity is something that is like an added value. But by embracing diversity and by giving the voice to everyone, taking diversity into decision making, any change can be encouraged more than if we think about teams that are homogeneous, like, for example, everyone comes from the same country and similar social background. So that's the way how diversity can encourage change. But of course, there has to be a leader who knows how to use this diversity for the benefit of the organization or the team.
Or there has to be a whole team like we are.
Well, yeah, of
Or
course.
we all believe in this. And if you would like to also find out how we actually experience this and how we live this in our own team, we would love to have you join us. And I'm going to check what just happened in the chat. Tammy has written that she lives in Minneapolis, where George Floyd had lived, and that her remarks were for corporations, but she also sees that as applicable for what happened with George Floyd. The trial has just started with the policeman, et cetera, et cetera. So she's made a really interesting connection between her own personal life and what you said, Astoha. Thank you for sharing that, Tammy. That's very important. Simin says, unfortunately, with the recent bias and disinclusion of Muslim residents in Europe, I hear more and more from friends how hard it is to get a good job as a Muslim woman, or even to make progress on their entrepreneurial work. And I live in Germany, and I would definitely say, Simin, that is something that I have experienced here more than once, and not only with women, also with men, but probably more so with women. So I agree with you on that point, something we definitely have to be working on moving forward. Teresa has said, brilliant, Asra. I lived and studied in Eastern Europe as a Belgian and would highly recommend this experience to every young and older European. Exactly what I always say. I've lived in Germany since 1983, and I say every American should go to Europe and every European should go to America. And I've been saying that for almost 40 years now. So I really, really agree with that. And the nice thing about today is, of course, as you see with us ladies, we're all here today, have the chance to interact with each other. We would love to have you have the chance to interact with us. And I'm going to call on Idali, because before we had a question promised to answer it at the end. It was asking about our meeting format, how we actually work together. Idali, would you give us a little more information on that? And as I said, if you're interested, we've put the website and the email address in the chat. We'd love you to get in touch with us, and we'll invite you. We meet on Fridays, so we've met today for the first time also with you, and we'll be meeting again next Friday. So if you'd like to join us, please let us know. Idali, would you like to explain a little more about how we meet?
Thank you, Rhonda. Yes, for the ones who couldn't listen to me at the beginning, I'm Idali Rios, founder of Guapalita, and I already shared the website. Let me just do it again. It's www.guapalita.com. And if you allow me, Rhonda, I can just share right away the website in the screen, so you guys can see, okay, how it looks. So here we are. This is our team. Yes. And here you can see at the right, it says, join our Friday talks. Okay, register here. You click here on this picture, and this will take you to the webinar registration, okay? So you only have to register, name, email address, and that's it. Automatically, you're going to receive your reminders. Let me just go back. Wait a second. You're going to receive your reminders. And basically, the Friday talks were created to have a frequent session, okay? And in that way, to identify the most important topics that for us, we consider are key and vital. As I said in my presentation, the first topic that we consider vital was competencies. And we said, okay, what might be this profile for the feminine leader in the future? We started to exchange, we started to share based on other backgrounds, based on other nationalities, based on other experience in the countries where we have lived, with work and jobs that we have performed. And that was the way we interacted and exchanged. So if you are interested to be part of the Friday Talks, I invite you to click on this link, Friday Talks, register here, just write your email address and your name. You automatically will receive your reminders. And every Friday, 4 p.m. Berlin time, we meet, okay? We are gonna have more programs in the future. Indeed, we are cooking other leadership program, which we hope more people can join us. Thanks, Rhonda.
Thank you, Adele. Janet's been so nice and also put the link in the chat for those of you. Oh, and Sarah's already registered. Oh, we love people who take quick action. Remember, maybe you didn't notice, the important thing about the name of our program today was not really the title, because we've been talking about the title the whole time, and that's been very important, but the subtitle was also important: co-creating development and practical applications. We hope we've given you some practical applications today. That's what we were here for, to give you an insight into what we see and what each of us works on, but also to give you a way to actually take some of that with you and move forward. And if you'd like to help us develop this even more, we'd love to see you at our next Friday talk, next Friday, or another one in the future. And if you need something before that, you have the ways to get in touch with us via email or through the website. Is there anything else we can do for you ladies today? Any other comments you have? Any other questions you'd like to ask? We have a few more minutes before the doors close and we all have to go somewhere else. Okay. If not, I'd like to ask all of our ladies to unmute, and we will all say goodbye then together, and wish all of the ladies who joined us today all the best for their future success. And we hope that we can play a role in that if you'd like to. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again soon on another Friday if you join us for our Friday talks. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Bye.
everybody being here.
Bye.
Good weekend.
Ciao, ciao. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.